The focus here is on Jewish identity. You have to know who you are. We're not talking about a religious state. The goal, ultimately, that would be wonderful, but the goal is not to set up a state based on halacha. A guy's driving on Shabbat, we jump him, we take him out, we throw a couple of rocks at his head. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at a state of Jewish values, and I'll explain exactly what that means. First, you have to know who you are. So who are we? We hear this term Palestinian all the time. I don't use that term, certainly try not to, because I don't believe such a thing exists as a Palestinian. But you know what else? I don't think, that guy who calls himself as a Palestinian is an Arab. He's an Arab. Let's say it like this, because if you call him a Palestinian, well, then he has to come from Palestine, and then, I guess we have to give him half our house. However, just like there's no such thing as a Palestinian, there's no such thing as an Israeli. What's an Israeli? Everybody was screaming that Obama last week said that yes, the Jews deserve a state because look what happened to them 60 years ago, and 6 million of them were killed. It's very nice, but what happened to us was horrible and horrific, and we cry to just think about the Shoah. But that's not why we have a state. We have a state because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to Abraham Avinu close to 4,000 years ago. That's why we are here. That's the only reason we are here. So just like there's no Palestinian, there's no Israeli. Because if you say you're Israeli, well then, when did Israel form? When was Israel formed? The state of Israel formed in 1948. We are Jews. Remember the song, We Are Jews. Couldn't be prouder. If you can't hear it, we'll shout a little louder. We used to say that all the time at the parades or the rallies in New York. We're Jews. B'nai Israel. Some are Dati, some are not Dati, some are Ashkenaz, Sephardic, Hasidic, all different types. We're one family. It's like the 4 sons that come together around the Seder table, but we're all there. Baruch Hashem, we're all there. And therefore, this is a key point to understand. The book that gave us the right to this land, of course we know, is the Tanakh. And this is something that you might have heard, but we have to point it out all the time, and I make sure to say this publicly every time I speak. How many times is Yerushalayim mentioned in the Tanakh? Over 700. How many times is Jerusalem mentioned in the Quran? Anybody? 0. 0. Not like 10. 0. So who's kidding who? It's holy to us. God gave it to us. Okay, so this is your holy book, the Quran. Go through it, read the whole thing. You won't find Jerusalem mentioned even once. In our book, Lahavdil, 700 plus. Close to 800 actually. You know what? You know what the problem is? The problem is the Arabs understand this perfectly. We don't. They understand the specialness of this land, but we don't. We don't appreciate who we are and what we're doing here. I'm going to read to you a story that is extremely, extremely powerful and sad at the same time. In the early 1970s, there was a terrorist by the name of Salah al-Tamari who was arrested, and he was in an Israeli jail for attempting to kill Jews. He was known as the leader of the PLO prisoners. They all looked to him for guidance, for advice, for direction, for some kind of motivation. He was like their leader. Okay. He was very depressed. Today, by the way, Salah al-Tamari is not in an Israeli prison. I agree with that. I believe someone who tried to kill Jews should not be in an Israeli prison. They should be in an Israeli cemetery. But that's a different discussion. Anyway, so this guy who was an Israeli, and we're feeding him, and we're clothing him, we're giving him all these nice things after he tried to kill Jews. Any case, today he is a member, he did tshuva, and he's a member of the Palestinian Authority Security Council. So we're talking security, the guy that tried to kill Jews. Now, any case, in the 70s he was jailed, and then he was released in some kind of prisoner exchange. When he got out, he was interviewed by Ma'ariv newspaper because he was like the leader of the prisoners. And the question that was asked of him was that something happened. We all heard that you were very depressed. The prisoners were looking to you for guidance, for direction, and you were nowhere to be found. And all of a sudden, like you jumped up, you had this surge of energy, and you were able to tell people what to do. What happened? And he says, I'll tell you what happened. It was in, I think it was 76 or 77, I don't know the exact year, but in the mid-70s, the story that he told, and I'm going to read to you word for word what he said, happened on Pesach. You might have heard the story, but it's a very powerful story. What happened was, he was in jail, and he's sitting there in a cell, and walking past him is an Israeli prison guard eating his lunch. A pita with who knows what inside. Pesach, pita, no good. This is not a problem with kitnio. This is a problem with something much bigger than kitnio. Ata Yehudi, amarti lo. Let's translate. You're a Jew, I said to him. Said the terrorist. Im kach, madua ata ochel chametz bepesach. Why are you eating chametz on Pesach? And chayodea, don't you know, sheli Yehudi asur le'achol chametz b'chag zeh? Don't you know that this is your holiday? You're not allowed to eat chametz, says the terrorist to the Jew. And answering him is the Jewish prison guard. He says, "Ani lo mechuyav ledvarim she'iru la'ami b'yetziat Mitzrayim lifnei 2,000 shana v'yoter." I'm not obligated to things that happened to my people 2,000 years ago. He doesn't deny that it happened. I'm not obligated. Ein li kesher lekach. I have no connection to those things. And he kept munching, and he walked away. L'macharat asafti et ha'hanaga ha'palestinait shebetoch ha'kela. The next day, I gathered the leaders of the prison, that were in the jail. Hivhardi lekulam, I declared to all of them, sheme'oto boker, from this day, from this morning, anu yotzim l'derech hadasha, we're going out on a new derech, new path. L'milchama al hakol, we're going to go on a war for everything. Why? Lo al achuz katan, v'lo al pirurim she'yizraku lanu. We're not going to fight anymore for small percentages or for crumbs that they throw towards us. Why? Sheken mimulenu omed, because standing opposed to us, says the terrorist, is an am chaser kesher l'sharashav. Stands a nation disconnected from its roots. That was a story from many, many years ago. So the Arabs understand that here in this land, in order to fight, you have to be connected to your roots. And everything they do connects them to their roots. Jihad, holy war. Hezbollah, army of God. Everything they do, Allah Akbar, God is great. Everything they do connects to some way of their religion. And we, certainly our leaders, not the people, but the leaders run away. They run away from who they are, they run away from their divine mission, and they run away from the special task that has been assigned to them from the one above. One more story. I heard this from Rav Shmuel Eliyahu, who was the chief rabbi to this day of Tzfat. Last Hanukkah, I was at a Hanukkah party up north, and Rav Shmuel Eliyahu, of course the son of Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, who should be well, told this story. About 2 or 3 weeks before the British left Tzfat, the British called the Jews into the offices, and they said, listen, in about 3 weeks we're leaving, and we know that you have no weapons, and we know, furthermore, we know that the Arabs are armed to the teeth, and they have plans to kill, to massacre every single Jew in Tzfat. So we're here for another 3 weeks. We will protect you for the next 3 weeks, said the British officers, we highly recommend you take your men, women, and children, leave Tzfat, because when we leave, you're not going to have any protection, and they're going to slaughter every one of you.